for Calgary Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to say a couple of things. I'll be supporting this amendment. And I'd also like to thank the member from St. Albert for her incredible work that she's done on this, because I know that she's worked very hard on behalf of that community, not just today, but I think for most of her life. And I'll commend the minister for making indexing incomes, instead of it being a regulation, that now it's legislation. But you know, Madam Chair, it is always interesting to me, and I have sat in this chamber now for almost 7 years. And I too, like some of the members, like the Minister of Finance, got politically involved because I saw places where we needed to change. We needed to evolve, not just as a government, but we needed to evolve as a people in this province. You know, one of the sayings that I tell grade 6 kids, one of the questions I ask them, what is the greatest invention ever created? And they say things like hockey, and some say oil or cell phones. But I say, well, what about the caveman and the stone wheel? They're like, oh yeah, right. And then I ask them, I go, well, did we ever run out of rock? And they go, no, look at the mountains. We have tons and tons of rock, but guess what? Times changed. And I said, well, what do they make wheels and tires out of now? Completely different things. I'm a bit disturbed when I hear Minister of Finance and Minister of the Crown basically in a roundabout way basically defame people that I know have sat in the Office of Human Services, that have given their blood, sweat, and tears. The Honourable former Premier Dave Hancock, and a dear friend of mine, the Honourable Manmeet Bhullar. It is disgraceful to think that those two people did not work tirelessly on behalf of Albertans. Now I'll say this, and this is maybe something that we don't hear enough in this chamber. Yes, I was elected as a progressive conservative in 2012, and whatever that government did at the day and whatever that government did in the past, I am happy to wear it all. Because if you're going to blame the former government, then you had better thank the former government for a lot of the very good things that happened in this province. And there's a saying, pride cometh before the fall. But while you've done an excellent job on this particular file, there are other places in your government where you just don't have it right yet. And if you think you have it right, well, then I'll go back to that saying, pride cometh before the fall. Because as progressive conservatives, we certainly didn't have it right. When I sat in the Minister of the Crown, or even as an MLA, as a father, as a human being, as an Albertan, I don't always get it right. But I continue to work hard to refine myself, to refine my thoughts. And I think Manmeet Bhullar was on that path. And I dare somebody in this chamber to deny that. Trying to get to a place on a very, very complex file, and I'll say this as a paramedic on the street, when you want to see people in crisis with different issues, and then you hear about their stories about AISH and income supports, and how people not only how they disrespect them because of the place they are in their lives. It is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm glad that we are getting, particularly on this particular file, where we're getting it more and more right, where we're actually having a debate and where people are accepting amendments. That's what we should be doing in here. We should be trying to get to a place where both sides have some credibility on this issue. There is nobody, you know, look, I left the United Conservative Party, but I know many of the people there, if not all of them on this particular file, absolutely do care. Their way to get there might be different, but I know they care. I know the Alberta Party caucus cares. I know the member from Calgary, McCain-Nose Hill, has done a lot of work on this particular file, and she should be commended. But it's pretty easy in this chamber to find the grounds where we have common ground, and I believe this is one of them. And to have a respectful debate rather than blaming, like, you know, nobody comes to this chamber without a goal, I don't think. There might be a few that have the wrong intentions. But I just, you know, when we think about like Peter Lougheed, Don Getty, you know, each premier, each government has contributed in some way, some good and some bad. And that's just a reality. But our job in here is to have respectful debate, to stand on the records that we have. You know, Madam Chair, I'll tell you one of the things that certainly, you know, when we did the consultations on this particular file, and I'm going to say a couple things in this chamber that some people might be surprised of. I've had the opportunity to go to some of those things, and you absolutely feel heart-wrenched. You recognize that in that particular community, there are people over the years have been great advocates for their children and or the people that they're in care of or caring for, where they were great advocates and they were able to get more money. But yet somebody who had more severe disabilities who didn't have a great advocate was getting less, and you saw them fall through the cracks. We tried to address that. But I'll tell you some things, again, when I look around the province, whether visiting my father in a rural hospital, I have to tell you, I'm absolutely embarrassed that a government of 44 years that I was a part of, that some of the facilities look like that. I can say that. That's responsibility. That's, you know, and I'm not asking for any credit. But it's stuff that we need to continue to work on. This particular file, like I said, is very complex, and this is not going to end. I don't care who forms the next government. If you think that you've got it down in the next government that forms government, whoever it may be, think that this is going to be an easy file, it's not going away. There are going to continue to be issues. So, another time, visiting a mental health facility and walking in there and going, hold on a minute. We're one of the richest provinces in the world, and this is what this place looks like? This is the conditions we're asking mental health professionals to help our children and our loved ones, and this is what we've given them? Well, you know, all due respect to the government, you've been there for 3.5 years, and these facilities still look the same way. And I'm not blaming anybody. What I'm stating, Madam Chair, is that running a province, running the government is very, very complex. Everybody has a different approach. But we would be better served and more well served if we were actually collaborating on these particular issues. And I'll say it again, the government has done some good things. Everything the United Conservative Party talks about in trying to tighten the belts of our fiscal responsibility are not all wrong. The amendments that the Alberta Party caucus and some of the independents. When we start looking at each other as fellow Albertans, and remember this, if you are the government and you're there to govern everybody, are you not there to try to govern us and be respectful as us as taxpayers and vice versa? There is an opportunity whenever an election is called and as we continue to go, and whether Albertans feel I'm fit enough to come back to this chamber or not, there's an opportunity moving forward for members that do get re-elected and whoever forms government to start elevating the debate in this province to deal with files like this, where there are people suffering, and you know, some of these people and the things that they feel that they have to resort to get the money that they need is just, again, I've seen it on the ambulance, and it's despicable that we stand here and we argue about some of the petty things and who is to blame. Madam Chair, I just think if we were to collaborate more and be open to some ideas and not blame and say that the other side is always wrong because they're not, then I think, Madam Chair, we'd be far better off. Because isn't our goal at the end of the day, I should be trying to help support this minister even though I sit in the opposition benches with the Alberta Party, to try to give him my best ideas, or the Deputy Premier on the file of health, or the Minister of Justice. That's how I can best serve Albertans rather than my own political interests. So, Madam Chair, I'll leave it there, but I will be supporting these amendments, and I look forward to further debate. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Carson Taber Warner.